So, what is an asset investigation? So, I get many people that ask me that question. So, an asset investigation can take many different forms. Primarily, when most people think asset investigation, they think, in a divorce situation. That could be one of the situations that you would utilize an asset investigation in, but that is not typically, in a lot of states, that is not the reason to perform an investigation solely. Um, it, it would be situations like a judgment collection. So, you've taken somebody to court, you've received a judgment in your favor. Now, what do you do? Well, you have to literally find out, does the person have this? Does the entity have the ability to make the judgment whole? And then what do you do past that point? So you have to basically find out, is the juice worth the squeeze? And to do that, an asset investigation needs to be performed. We need to be able to find out, does the individual or entity have the means of paying? So do they have any property that you can, obtain a writ of attachment to? Do they have any bank accounts, any financial institutional products that they're maybe attached to, an IRA, a 401k, a savings account, a bond of some sort. So most attorneys don't have the ability to do an asset investigation and don't employ private investigators on their particular payroll. They reach out to private investigators as a third party. So that's myself. So in judgment situations, that would be relative to perform an asset investigation. So you would look at maybe an estate or probate situation where a loved one dies, or maybe a business owner that you're attached to or affiliated with passes away, and then their estate goes into probate. Well, you need to understand what that person owns, what that person has in their possession, what they have titled to them, anything in regards to assets that you may be entitled to in their untimely death. So I would give you an example. A loved one passes away. The estate is maybe being challenged between siblings or relatives, and you need to see or find out what that person owns, because maybe you're entitled to a portion of that asset, or maybe all of the assets. So to do that, to be able to come to the table intelligently and to be able to argue your case, you have to be able to understand what that landscape looks like. So what do they own? Do they have any tangible assets? Cars, boats, airplanes, campers, any toys that were titled or registered, where they lie at this point, any homes or property. Maybe of a home. Maybe that person has two other homes or three other pieces of property that you don't know about. So different situations arise in that regards. Obviously, we already talked about divorce or child support. So in a child support situation, the assets may be in dispute. This person saying that they don't own anything. This person over here says, well, yeah, they do. I know of X, Y, and Z. Well, you have to be able to prove that. What do they own? Where did it go? And then you also have the situation where a lot of people try to divest their property to circumvent being collected against or have a judgment against. So they try to transfer bank accounts, savings accounts, any kind of investment accounts, property, tangible assets to other people in their lives. So boyfriend or girlfriend, grandmother, mother, things of that nature, to try to subvert being collected upon, or in a child support case, that being used against them. So we can also trace those lines of distinction. Hey, Joe Smith owned it on this day, transferred it on this day. This was, during the time of, a divorce, situation, or maybe a split of some sort. So we can paint those lines of distinction for our clients. It could be you could use an asset investigation for a personal injury situation where you've been involved in an accident. This person destroyed your car, or you're sitting in a hospital, and you've got bills that need to be taken care of. More times than not, the attorney that you employ is only going to use one method to be able to check, and that's called a LexisNexis report, and that is not an accurate report, and it's not a deep dive into what that person owns or what that person may be attached to that you would have a right to collect against or utilize on your behalf to be able to get a settlement of some sort. So again, attorneys reach out to private investigators to be able to do that and paint those lines of distinction and do a deep dive, a deep history of what that person owns. And a LexisNexis report is not a robust tactic to be able to utilize on your behalf. So be careful with attorneys that say that they can do things like this, because they can't. Okay, a vast majority of them can't. So you may have a situation where you would want to utilize a asset investigation, a medical malpractice situation where you went into a hospital, the doctor or hospital had some mishap, or there may be something that happens while you're in a hospital under that physician's care, where you are looking to possibly sue the individual. Well, you need to understand what kind of insurance does this doctor have? What kind of insurance does the hospital have? What is their asset framework look like, in which you can go and try to utilize on your behalf to be able to collect against this individual, or to get them to come to the table in regards to your case. And then obviously, there's other situations that are a little less prolific that could arise in regards to doing an asset investigation. But I would tell you, looking at asset investigations, it's just not a cookie cutter situation. And if you go to, a large private investigations firm, or a multi-state or a multinational investigations firm, they're not going to take the time. They're not going to treat you individually. They're just going to do their, ABC, and not do the second, third, or fourth level. And they're going to take the approach of, you're one of, 200 clients that they have for that month. And they're going to dangle the carrot in front of you. The longer you go with them, or the longer this thing pleads out, they're going to dangle the carrot. Well, here's a little bit more. Here's a little bit more. Here's a little bit more. Whereas, if you go with an individual, if you utilize my experience, I'm going to treat you like an individual. I'm not going to treat you like a number, and I'm going to give you the full scope and my opinion relating to your particular case and what I see professionally, in which you can gravitate towards, or be able to help your attorney head down that road. I also will sit with you and or your attorney or both and discuss, okay, here are the things that I see, here are the areas of concern that I have, here's my thought in which you can gravitate towards based upon the information that I've given. And oh, by the way, here's Bobby Sue, Joe Smith, and Tim Wilson that are all a part of this person's landscape that are coming up, several times within their asset framework. So there's an angle to go in relation to those. So when you are going through life-changing events, and believe me, these are life-changing events, when you have a judgment in your hand and going after someone in regards to a life-changing event, whether you're suing someone, or maybe you have a business dissolution that's taken place, or maybe a marriage dissolution that's taking place, a divorce, child support situation, personal injury situation, a medical situation. You want as much information as possible. And the reason why I tell you that is because attorneys work on hourly fees, okay? And I do as well, later on down the line. But for my asset investigations and piece of it, I will work with you in regards to a flat fee and tell you, okay, if we have this situation, I provide you this information, this is what it's going to cost. Whereas an attorney is going to, envelop that, and they're going to dangle that carrot and keep you going on that hamster wheel because they are into it for billable hours. That's what it's about. And then on top of that, they're going to reach out to someone like me, and they're going to utilize my services and then charge you for it. And then they're also going to pass it off on their hourly fee to you. So in a lot of cases, I have people that come to me and say, hey, we need this for evaluation with our attorney, or we're going to have a sit down with our attorney and talk about maybe a retainer with it, but I'd like to know what I need to know before I sit down with them. Is the juice worth the squeeze? This is what I have going on. Here's my attorney that I'm going to be sitting with. This is the situation. Here's the judgment that I have, or here's the person that I'm going to sue, or here's the situation with my divorce situation. This is what I need to check out in terms of asset. Does this person have any assets? Does this company have any assets that may be able to sway your decision on to pursue it or not to pursue it? So that is the down and dirty for asset investigations. And again, I would love to be, to consult with you and speak with you in relation to your particular situation. So please give me a call, and I'll get you the best information that I can provide you. Thanks.